What's up, metalheads? My name's Jamie. This is the BladesAndEDC channel. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you're new, please consider subscribing. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button for me. Alright, I got another partial disassembly for you guys today, and we're going to be installing a scale, not on the 80-20.5, but I did want to show you. I got my lynch clip in, my deep carry lynch clip in, and anodized it and installed it. I think it's looking really good. Thumb stud I think will be here tomorrow. I'm going to anodize it the same color, and this one will be done. This will be a completed build. Until I swap the blade out, I will be swapping out this AUS 10 blade with a 3V blade. I'm trading Craig because he gets a lot of humidity where he's at, so he'd rather have the AUS 10 for its stainless. Because it's stainless instead of the 3V, which is not stainless. And for me personally, it doesn't matter. So I will be swapping the blade out, but it's the exact same blade, clip point blade. So won't look any differently, but we'll get a different blade put on it at some point in the future. All right, let's take a look at the knife we're going to be working on today. Bam! Here we have a Hinderer XM-18, the Warncliffe one. My goodness, dude. That blade is just mean looking, right? That is a mean looking knife with that blade shape. To where, you know, with a regular Hinderer, this is a skinny, but the blade shape says it all to me, right? It's everything to me, with this knife anyway. I don't like the look of this knife at all. Nothing about this knife, looks-wise, does anything for me. If this knife had this blade, I'd feel the same way about this one. But because of that blade shape, man, it just looks so good. I do have an overview coming of the Hinderer very soon. This is a knife I have looked at many times and have had zero interest in ever owning one of these. I've always thought they were ugly. I didn't like them. And, well, opinions can change. So perceptions can change. Once you get one of these in hand, it kind of changes everything. Let me show you what I'm going to be installing on this knife today. This is a RC Bladeworks micarta scale that we are going to be putting on this Hinderer. This one has like that snake skin pattern. This has already been had mineral oil put on it to darken it up some, so it must have been extremely light before because it's not very dark right now, right? And apparently this has already had mineral oil put on it, so I think it's going to look pretty good on there personally. This is Craig's knife, by the way, and his scale. And he asked me if I would install this for him, and I said I would love to. So we got a different kind of pivot here. He also sent this little doodad. I have never disassembled a Hinderer, FYI, full disclosure. I don't know the first thing about them. The rest of these appear to be T6, but we've got what looks like a flathead screwdriver there. I'm assuming, yep, that right there is going to take that pivot loose for us. So I think, let's see if that pivot will turn. Before we even attempt to take these other screws out, I just want to make sure I can actually get the pivot free. Yeah, that fits. Oh, it's free spinning. Is there something else in here to make that not spin? This does not fit the screws. I've already checked it, but I do have the right size Torx that will fit it. What do we use to stop that from spinning? It's my question, because what do we have here? I probably should have went online and watched the video before I did this, but yeah, because this is not a captive pivot, so when I turn this, okay, if I push down on my thumb hard enough, it will come free. So, all right, let's put this back in there. That's the wrong size for this. Like I said, I already checked it, but I do have the right size ready to go. This is a 5/64th bit. I'm not sure what that one was being used for. Maybe it works on a different Hinderer, maybe the 3.5 or something. But I do have a bit here ready to go. All right, let's try to take these out. All right, got one out. 2 out. Three out. Alright, let's see if I can get, well, where'd that come from? Oh, what's going on here? Oh, the standoff fell out. I see what happened. Well, shit. That sucks. We'll see if we can get that back in there without fully disassembling this knife. Maybe we can. Maybe we'll have to do a full disassembly. Well, shit, they're all falling out. We're probably going to have to do a full disassembly then. Make sure I can get this pivot loose though. Man, it's tight. This is rough. Man, there's another damn stink bug in the house. Little bastards. North Carolina state bird, guys. The stink bug. They're freaking everywhere in this fall and winter. I'm not a big fan of this pivot screw, to be completely honest with you. I don't know why you wouldn't just use a Torx screw like everyone else uses. And I'm also not a fan of all this stuff just falling out the way it is. That's okay. I'm going to pop this liner up so we can put all that back together. Jeez. This knife literally falls apart. It quite literally falls apart. Craig told me this knife was already really clean, and it definitely is. Get back on there bearing. I guess we need to go ahead and put these through here. Everything's just trying to fall out on this knife. Get all those in there. All right. Can I lay this back down without all those falling out? I must take the pocket clip off to do that, aren't I? Alright, I probably should have just done that and none of this would have happened. That's a Phillips head? Hold on, hold on, hold on. Am I really seeing a Phillips head screw on the pocket clip? Or, hell yes I am. Why? Why would you do this to me? I don't know if I got a Phillips head handy anywhere up here. I may have to pause this video. Hold on. Hold on. Actually, I do have a Phillips. Bam. It's officially the first time I've ever seen a Phillips screw on a knife. And of course it would be a USA made knife that would use it, right? Not to say it's a negative thing at all, just never seen it before. Alright, lay flat, you bitch. Thing looks like it could definitely use some lube. There's like no lube in there at all. We're gonna break us a doodad out here. Put a little tiny bit on here. Since we had to take it all the way apart, we may as well lube it up. Go around that pivot too. Nothing special about the bearings. They look like just standard old bearings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9 ball bearings. I think I can tell you about this knife already, or I've had enough time with it at this point. This thing has what is called detent perfection, but you got to get used to something with this knife to enjoy that detent perfection. And look at the way that titanium is bronzed on there. Look at how I'm touching it, the way it's changing just from the touch, a little bit of touch. Because the light bar in this knife is super, super sensitive. You cannot be touching this light bar. And it's kind of rainbow colors when you touch it. Alright, so I guess we just drop those dudes there. Like that. And this goes on here like that. Oh, Jesus, I did it again. This is a funky knife to work on. This is very different. Very, very different. The parts literally fall out of it. This does not have the tight tolerances I am accustomed to. Alright, so we cannot pick it up and squeeze the liner on. We will have to leave it laying flat. Get out of here. Get that stop pin in, pivot in. Okay, I think that's good. Now we got to get this to line up too, without things falling out again. Oh man, that micarta feels so good. Feels so good. Now we're going to use this pivot screw that looks like it's from the 1920s, when they still used straight screwdrivers. Not sure why. Is there a reasoning behind this, or was this just the cheapest thing they could find? Why would you use that? I don't understand. Actually, before I even attempt to pick this up to tighten that up, I'm going to go ahead and get some of these in here so things do not fall apart on me again. I'm just going to get them started so nothing falls out. And then we're going to deal with this craziness up here. This side looks crazier than that side. I can feel the pivot screw coming through on that side. It's hollow, basically. The screws, the head of the screw is sticking out. Alright, that's pretty tight. Well, it's tight. Ooh, we dead centered. We got any blade play? We got 0 blade play. What do you think? I like that scale, man. That looks good. It looks really good. Alright, now let's use some Phillips screws on a pocket clip for some reason. We have a straight screwdriver or a flathead for a pivot, and we have Phillips screws on the pocket clip. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but you know, Phillips screws and straight or flathead screws, it's not a Torx dum-dum, they do strip much easier than a Torx screw. That's why a Torx screw is far superior. Much more surface contact on a Torx screw, right? You're making much more contact with the metal. You don't have, with this you got less contacts to get a grip and keep from stripping. With a flathead, it's even less, right? Alright, let's get stuff out the way. Get out the way, y'all, get out the way. Y'all get over here. I didn't put anything on that detent ball, did I? Here, let's put a little dab of this stuff right here on there. Tiny bit. Ooh, that's more than I need. Let's get rid of some of that. Cannot let your middle finger hit that like bar. Reverse flick is much better on this knife for me, because with thumb flick, a lot of times my middle finger wants to touch that like bar. You cannot touch that like bar. It will not work. No blade play. A little off-centered, just a hair. Oh, that means I got it too tight because it's going the wrong way. There we go. Now we're dead centered. We got any blade play now? We do have a tiny bit. Let's barely turn that back. Just a hair. Still a little bit off centered. Dead centered. Tiny bit of blade play. Still dead centered. No blade play. That makes that a much better looking knife in my opinion. That looks so much better than this G10 does. Not even comparable. Man, that's a good looking knife. That blade shape makes this knife for me. With the drop point blade, and I'm not a fan of the look of it. But one thing I can tell you about both these knives, the frame lock and the skinny, aka liner lock, the ergos, guys, the ergos on these knives are made to be used, right? They're not made to be flashy, to look cool. They're made to be used. When you grab one of these knives, whether it's in the normal grip or choked up, and you get it in hand, it all makes sense to you. It really does. So, yeah. Costs a lot of money though. You're gonna pay for those ergonomics. You're gonna pay through the nose for those ergonomics. But you know, when you look at something like, say, what's a good example? Because this Hinderer would be like $420, I think. Buy it brand new, be around $420. What's a good example of a knife, a Chinese-made knife that's coming out that looks really cool, right? So what's something that's coming out? The Buzz. Buzz would be a good example. Or what else? There are others, but you know, those knives are running $300, $300. A little bit more, you can buy American made, right? I will be the first to say that something like the Buzz, I think it's aesthetically better looking, but this has grown on me a lot, I gotta say. This knife has grown on me. Before I got this knife here, I had zero interest in it, zero. And the more I pick it up and hold it and flick it, the D10 is freaking fantastic on both of them. Fantastic. Unfellable. You cannot fell these knives. That's as light as I can possibly push, and watch that blade come out. Yeah, yeah. Fantastic action on them. And honestly, $420. If you compare it to the higher end Chinese knives that are Best Tech or Riat that are $300, $350, is it really overpriced? I don't know. I don't know. I think Tactile has ruined me, basically. Tactile, the Rockwall at $300, it just makes me look at everything, again and be like, am I paying too much for this? Because, I feel less like I'm paying too much for this at $420 after looking at, where's my Rockwall? There's my Rockwall. Honestly, this one's $330 with the milling, so we're less than $100 difference in price. But with the regular Rockwall, it's $300. I don't feel as bad about this knife against this knife because they're both made in the USA, right? Yeah, this is more expensive. I think it probably took just as much work and milling and CAD work and all that stuff to make this knife as it did that knife. But then when I compared it to these Chinese knives, I don't know, man. I'm not against Chinese knives. Don't take this wrong. I own lots of them. But, you know, spending $300 on a knife made of the same materials, 20 CV or Magna Cut titanium, and it's $300 from China, knowing what's going on in China, you know, it's communism over there. People are basically, they have slave labor over there, and they're charging us $300 for a knife. To where you can buy this made in the USA for $300 or this made in the USA for $420. And you're supporting American jobs. So, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I'm not against Chinese knives. I'm not saying not to buy Chinese knives. But I am saying, buy American when you can buy American. Support American when you can support American. If you want things to change in this country, it starts with you. Vote with your dollars, basically, is what I'm trying to say. You know, spend your money wisely. This is a great knife. It really is. And with that Wharncliffe blade, it makes me really like this one a lot. The scale doesn't hurt either, I gotta say. That scale looks so good. That snake skin. Not crazy about the flathead screwdriver or the Phillips screws, but I can't argue with the action of this knife. Oh, I touched the lock bar. Reverse flick this action. I cannot argue with the action or the ergos, man. They're both amazing. They truly are top notch. The ergos and the action are top notch. Same goes for the skinny, which I think I would prefer because I don't have to worry about the lock bar pressure with the skinny because it's a liner lock. You know, I can thumb flick the crap out of it and it's not an issue. Both of them have fantastic detents. Fantastic detents. Two very cool knives. Although the blade shape, this one, I want that blade on that knife. You know what I mean? Of course, I would change these scales out to something differently if I had one. But that blade shape on the liner lock or the skinny version would be ideal for me. If I ever get one of these, that's what I'm going to be going for. And I'm sure I will own one of these down the road. Yeah, I will own a Hinderer in the future. I've made my mind up. I will own a Wharncliffe Hinderer. XM-18, 3-inch though. I have no interest in the 3.5. Way too big. But I will own one of these knives in the future. But hopefully I don't even know if they make it in the skinny version with the Wharncliffe blade. I hope they do, because that's what I want. I'd much rather have the liner lock than the frame lock. One thing I am noticing is the pivots. This one looks like Torx. Maybe this is an older Hinderer here. I'm not sure. It's maybe an older model. So maybe they have switched everything over to Torx. But what I will say is, what I can see is they're still using Phillips screws on the pocket clip and the pocket clip filler tab. And it is right hand tip, upper tip down. No left hand carry. No lefty lob on this one. I'm not sure if they make lefty models or not. They may. Haven't really done a whole lot of research on these, to be honest with you. But yeah, great knives though. Fantastic. Some of the best ergos I've felt. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not just talking it up because it's made in the USA. Some of the best ergos I've ever felt on a knife. This knife reminds me a lot, not because they look the same, because I had the same experience with them, of the Spyderco Para 3. Originally, I was not a fan of the look of the Para 3, right? I had no interest in the Para 3 just because of the, got some oil on there, you need to clean it. Just because of the aesthetics. I thought it was ugly. But then you get a Spyderco Para 3 in hand and you're like, oh, that's why it looks like that. That's why it looks like that when you get it in hand. This knife is the exact same way. Ah, that's why it looks like that. It's not ugly because the person has ugly taste or designs. If you think this is ugly, it's ugly because it fits your hand like a freaking glove. It fits perfectly. It's made to just, I mean, it just melts into your hand. Same with the Spyderco Para 3. And I've grown to love the look of the Para 3. I really have. I used to hate the way this knife looked. I love it now. I love the way it looks. I think I will feel the same about this if I ever buy one. I will buy one eventually, for sure. But it's got to have the Wharncliffe. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. I'm just rambling on about nothing here. If you guys are Hinderer fans, comment below. I know about all the nonsense, the political nonsense, the stuff with transparent knives. I don't really care about all that. I'm just talking about the knives. I think that's that's some serious douchebaggery. I'm not a fan of any of that shit, that crap that went on. But I'm just talking about the knives. If you own the knives, what do you think about the knives? Comment below and let me know. And I'll see you guys on the next one.